What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another video. Now today I found something really cool for y'all. This is called Apex ChartJS. It's an open source charting library that is available to be able to use in all sorts of different types of front-end technology libraries such as React, Angular, Vue, and just plain JavaScript. And in my opinion, it's really robust. So if I were to go into the demos, we can see that we have a whole bunch of different types of charts, including the basic ones like line, area, column, bar. But there's also some really interesting ones like candlestick, box plot, bubbles, tree map, heat maps, and something I've never heard of, polar area. So in today's video, we're just going to be covering it at an introductory level, and later down the line we're going to be going into more in depth with how to work with themes and all that sort of good stuff. And these are the charts that we're going to be building right here. They're pretty basic ones. Top one is a simple line simple line chart, and the bottom one is a simple radar chart. And let me blow your mind here. This is really cool. So I can actually zoom in and zoom out. This comes standard with the line and bar chart. I can actually pan zoom if I wanted, so I can highlight an area to zoom in. I can pan over the actual chart. I can return home, so the original orientation. And this is really cool. I can export this chart into different types of files. So I can do SVG, PNG, or CSV. And that comes standard with most of the charts for this library. Alright. Now let's go ahead and build these charts out. Let's get into it. Alrighty, so I have a brand new React app made right here. There's basically nothing inside of it. And the first thing that we have to do is we have to install all of our packages. And there's only one package to install, and that's going to be Apex Charts. So what we're going to do is npm I react-apex charts and let that work its magic. And at the same time, I'm going to go ahead and import it right here. So I'll do import Apex charts from React Apex charts like so. To get pretty comfortable working with the library, first we're going to go ahead and work with some static data. So what I'll do is const options, and inside of here we're going to make it an object. And first thing, we need to give it a chart, and inside of it we're going to give it an ID. So this ID for this chart is going to call basic bar. And then after that we're going to define x-axis. So for this x-axis we want to define our labels, and the way that we define our labels is we need to give it a key, which is going to be called categories. This is a must, it has to be called categories. And then we can define all of our labels we want. So I'm just going to put in some basic years. So we have 1991, 92, 93, all the way to 98. And then after that, if we want, we can define some coloration. So for this basic tutorial, I'm going to add some basic coloration to the chart. I'll just call it, we're going to call it fill, and then we need to give it colors. And for this colors, I'm just going to give it black. Alrighty, so now we've created all of our options. Now we need to define our data. And this is a little bit more interesting. In usual other type of libraries, you can just define your data within your actual options object right here. But Apex Chart is a little bit different in you have to create a separate array of objects, which is then going to host all of our data. So I'll do const, and I'm going to call it series, and it's going to be an array of an object, and inside of there it's going to take in a name, and let's say age. So whenever we hover over a point in the data, it'll show a little tooltip that's going to display the string age. And then after that we can define our data. So we have to type in your data, and then we can type in here as an array our data. So I'm just going to put in some random numbers that GitHub Copilot gave me, 25, 66, 41, all the way to 65, and it must correspond to the length of your categories, or else it's just not going to look good. Now let's go ahead and use this bad boy. So within my return function right here, I'm going to go ahead and call Apex charts with a self-closing brace. And the first thing we have to do is we need to give it our options. So I'll do options is equal to options, and then we need to give it our series. So series is equal to series, and then after that I'll do type. And for this one, let's do a area, and then after that we'll give it let's give it a width of, let's say 800. And so now if we go back into our app, we should see hopefully there we go. So now we see an area chart with our fill as well as our plot points. So whenever I hover over something, let's say right here, back in 1994 I was 89 years old, and then I decided I wanted to go back to being 25 in 1996. And if I refresh the page a couple times, we see our nice little animation right there. And we can also zoom in, zoom out, pan zoom, pan scroll through these actual chart, return to normal, and we can also export it. So if I were to export it as a PNG, I'll show you what this looks like. Let me just minimize this bad boy right here, and that's what it looks like right there as a PNG. And so if you wanted to use a radar chart, we're gonna go ahead and copy this. I'm just gonna change the type to be radar, and if I save it, we go back into the application, and as you scroll down, let me refresh the page. We see that we have a radar chart right there, where we can hover over our plot points. This literally makes no sense for this type of data point. Alrighty, so that was a pretty basic introduction on how to work with this library. Next time we'll go into a little more detail. We're going to pull some data from an API. We'll be working with some themes as well and some different types of charts. So stay tuned, and if you enjoyed this, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.